Imagine a world that existed long before our time, where the Nile and Euphrates rivers were not merely sources of water essential for sustaining life, but served as the very lifeblood, nourishing the great civilizations of antiquity. In the distance, on the horizon between the sky and the earth, majestic pyramids loom, their polished surfaces like mirrors, reflecting the bright sunlight, creating the impression that the gods themselves designated the location for these monumental structures. In the heart of Babylon, one could hear the soothing sound of water gently flowing over the elaborately crafted, multi-tiered terraces of the Hanging Gardens, representing an oasis of coolness and greenery amidst the arid landscape. And in sacred Olympia, the site of the renowned Olympic Games, the statue of Zeus, the Thunderer, stands so grand and imposing that it seems as if its stony smile could animate the very passage of time. This ancient world was full of unsolved mysteries, incredible aspirations, and an unquenchable thirst to leave an indelible mark on the history of humankind, so that future generations would remember their achievements. The seven wonders of the ancient world are not merely impressive architectural structures or works of art. They are, above all, a vivid embodiment of ambition, incredible genius, and a deep faith in the immortality of the human spirit. They seem to declare implicitly, look at our accomplishments, appreciate what we are capable of. Our names and deeds will never be forgotten. We will remain in the memory of the ages. This carefully compiled list, passed down to us from the depths of centuries, has become a unique symbol of the indomitable will of humankind, their astonishing ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles and to turn the most audacious dreams into reality. But how did the very idea of bringing together precisely seven wonders of the world, singling them out from a multitude of other noteworthy creations, come about? The origins of this list are rooted in antiquity, in an era when the world was ruled by outstanding philosophers, tireless travelers, and inquisitive scientists who sought to classify, systematize, and comprehend all that surrounded them. Herodotus, rightfully honored with the title of the Father of History, and his numerous followers were among the first to describe in detail the greatest creations of their era, laying the foundation for the future list of wonders of the world. However, the final version of this list was formed somewhat later, thanks to the painstaking work of Callimachus of Cyrene, an outstanding librarian of the famous Library of Alexandria, one of the largest centers of knowledge and culture in the ancient world. But why exactly seven wonders? In the ancient world, the number seven was held in special reverence and was considered sacred, symbolizing completeness, finality, and perfection. It was believed that this number possessed special magical power and harmony. These wonders emerged in an era when various civilizations reached unprecedented heights in architecture, engineering, and art, demonstrating an unparalleled level of skill and innovation. Egyptian pharaohs, the powerful rulers of Babylon, and ambitious Greek tyrants spared no expense from their vast wealth to erect buildings that were destined to outlive not only themselves but entire centuries, remaining a testament to their greatness and power. However, it is important to remember and realize that these majestic structures were not built solely for aesthetic pleasure or to amaze the imagination of contemporaries. The pyramids, for example, served as a final resting place for Egyptian pharaohs, ensuring their comfortable transition to the afterlife, while the statue of Zeus was a tangible embodiment of divine majesty worshipped by millions of believers, seeing in it a symbol of strength and justice. The world surrounding these wonders was completely different from the one in which we live today. Imagine endless caravans of camels slowly crossing the vast sands of scorching deserts to deliver the precious building materials necessary for the construction of these monumental structures. Or courageous sailors conquering the turbulent seas, navigating by the bright, shimmering light of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, guiding them to a safe harbor. All these details have become an integral part of a story that clearly demonstrates how far one can go when driven by a dream, an unyielding desire for immortal glory, and a wish to leave their mark on eternity. The seven wonders of the ancient world are a kind of bridge connecting the distant past with the present. They not only tell us about the amazing achievements and innovations of those times, but also constantly remind us that human dreams can overcome time and space, inspiring us to new accomplishments. And now, to study these incredible historical monuments in more detail, let's embark on a fascinating journey through time and find out how each of these majestic structures came into being, who were the people who created them, for what purpose they did it, and how these wonders changed the world, leaving an indelible mark on the course of history. And now, let's mentally transport ourselves to ancient Egypt, the land where the history of the wonders of the world began. Among the endless sands and under the scorching rays of the hot desert sun rises a monumental structure that even today amazes the imagination with its grandeur and perfection of engineering thought. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world that has survived to this day, allowing us to personally touch history and feel the greatness of an ancient civilization. This grandiose pyramid was built around 2560 before the Common Era, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, better known by the Greek name Cheops. This impressive structure, whose original height was almost 147 meters, proudly held the title of the tallest structure in the world for many millennia, serving as a visible symbol of the power and greatness of the ancient Egyptian civilization. Today, as a result of natural erosion and the loss of the upper layers of cladding, its height has decreased slightly, but it still remains an unsurpassed symbol of the ingenuity and unyielding ambitions of the ancient Egyptian civilization. The very process of building this pyramid is still shrouded in mystery and is a real puzzle for modern researchers. To create this monumental structure, it took, by the most modest estimates, about 2,300,000 stone blocks, the total weight of which is estimated at approximately 6 million tons. The weight of each individual block, depending on its size and location in the structure of the pyramid, varied from 2.5 to an impressive 80 tons. How did the ancient Egyptians, without modern construction equipment at their disposal, manage to move such massive stone blocks over considerable distances and lift them to great heights? Scientists studying this issue agree that special sleds, sliding on carefully moistened sand, were used to transport stone blocks, which significantly minimize friction. Moreover, recent archaeological findings indicate that the ancient Egyptians built complex systems of canals and specially equipped platforms to deliver stone blocks directly to the construction site by waterway along the Nile River, which greatly simplified construction logistics. Originally, the pyramid was faced with sparkling white limestone, which, like a mirror, reflected sunlight, turning it into a dazzling beacon shining in the heart of the desert, invisible from afar. Unfortunately, this magnificent cladding has been almost completely lost as a result of time and human activity, but during its heyday, it made the pyramid a truly unforgettable sight, striking the imagination of everyone who saw it. The technology of building the pyramid is still a subject of lively debate and discussion among scientists and researchers. Some scientists suggest that stone blocks were raised to the top using straight ramps, which gradually lengthened and widened as the pyramid was erected, forming a kind of inclined plane leading to the top. Other experts are sure that spiral ramps encircling the pyramid, or a complex system of levers and pulleys, allowing less effort to be applied to lift the load, were used to lift heavy blocks. Regardless of which method was used, the very fact of the erection of the pyramid is an indisputable testament to the engineering genius and incredible skill of the ancient Egyptians, which still evokes sincere admiration among people around the world. However, it is worth noting that the pyramid was not just a large-scale engineering project aimed at demonstrating the power and might of the pharaoh. It also had deep spiritual significance and was an integral part of the religious beliefs of the ancient Egyptians. Pharaoh Khufu, who considered himself a divine mediator between earth and heaven, believed that the pyramid would become his step to eternal life and would ensure his prosperous existence in the afterlife. In the very heart of the pyramid, in its depths, was the central burial chamber skillfully carved from durable granite. This chamber was guarded by complex systems of secret passages, traps, and massive stone plugs, which were supposed to protect the pharaoh's burial from imminent looting and desecration of the tomb. Egyptian workers who took a direct part in the creation of this monumental structure lived in specially built settlements located near the construction site. The workers' diet consisted mainly of bread, meat, and beer, which provided them with enough calories and energy to perform heavy physical labor. Recent archaeological excavations have shown that many of these workers were not just disenfranchised slaves, as was long believed in historical science, but skilled craftsmen, engineers, and builders with valuable knowledge and skills. When it comes to the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, one cannot help but wonder, how did the ancient Egyptians, without modern technology and sophisticated construction equipment at their disposal, manage to create such a grandiose and perfect structure, which still amazes the imagination? The answer lies in their astonishing engineering feats, which were significantly ahead of their time. First and foremost, the incredible precision of the pyramid's design is astounding. Its sides are oriented almost perfectly to the cardinal directions, and the base is leveled with a minimal height difference, demonstrating the ancient Egyptians' profound knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and geodesy. To create the perfectly level foundation necessary for the stability of the entire structure, the builders used a water leveling technique, which allowed for exceptional accuracy and stability. The construction of the pyramid itself required extremely precise calculations, meticulous organization, and the coordinated effort of thousands of people. The ancient Egyptians demonstrated remarkable skill in using ramps of various designs to lift heavy stone blocks to great heights, as well as in applying various mechanisms and devices to facilitate this laborious work. One of the most plausible technologies used in the construction of the pyramid is considered to be a system of spiral ramps, which allowed for a significant reduction in the angle of inclination and a more even distribution of the effort required to lift the heavy stone blocks. Ramps were inclined structures that the ancient Egyptians used to raise massive building materials to a height during the construction of the pyramid. Imagine a long, gentle slope leading to the top of the pyramid, along which stone blocks could be pulled up with less effort than with a direct lift. How did this system work in practice? Stone blocks intended for the construction of the pyramid were carefully placed on special sleds made of wood and designed to carry heavy loads. These sleds were then pulled by workers over the surface of the ramp, using ropes and levers to make the work easier. To ensure that the sleds slid over the surface of the ramp as easily as possible and with minimal resistance, the sand beneath them was constantly wetted with water, thereby reducing the friction force and significantly facilitating the work of the workers pulling the sleds. As the pyramid grew taller, the ramp was lengthened or modified, with new sections added to continue lifting the stone blocks to the required height. The ramps used in the construction of the pyramid could have various designs and shapes: straight, leading to one of the sides of the pyramid, or spiral, winding around the pyramid in a circle like a serpentine road. The spiral ramp allowed the stone blocks to be lifted gradually, without creating too steep a slope, which significantly reduced the load on the workers and facilitated the lifting process. When a stone block finally reached the desired height, it was carefully placed into the pyramid structure, exactly in its place, and the workers returned down again for the next block, and the process was repeated over and over. It was an incredibly laborious, yet quite effective system, especially considering that the ancient Egyptians did not have at their disposal modern cranes, powerful engines, and other technical means that are widely used in construction today. Such engineering solutions allowed the ancient Egyptians to raise massive stone blocks to a height of over 460 feet, which is an impressive achievement for its time. The work of the ancient Egyptians with granite, an extremely strong and hard material, deserves special admiration and respect. These dense and heavy stones, delivered from quarries located in the Aswan area, were carefully processed to achieve perfect smoothness and compliance with specified dimensions. For processing granite, the ancient Egyptians used copper tools, abrasive materials such as sand and water. This technology was incredibly laborious and required great skill and patience, but it ensured the highest quality finish for the interior of the pyramid, which still amazes the imagination with its beauty and precision of execution. In addition, the ancient Egyptians used a complex system of relieving chambers located above the pharaoh's burial chamber to redistribute the pressure from the massive layers of stone blocks above. This engineering solution demonstrated their deep understanding of the principles of physics and statics, as well as their ability to create strong and durable structures capable of withstanding enormous loads. The Great Pyramid of Giza not only amazes with its colossal size and outstanding engineering achievements, but is also shrouded in many myths, legends, and mysteries that continue to excite the minds of mankind for millennia. These stories are not just figments of the imagination or fiction. They reflect our eternal desire to unravel the secrets of the past, to touch the greatness of ancient civilizations, and to understand how people who lived thousands of years ago lived and thought. One of the most popular and widespread myths associated with the Pyramid of Giza is the assumption that it is not just a tomb intended for the burial of the pharaoh, but a complex device with a special energetic power capable of generating and concentrating energy. Some supporters of this theory believe that the pyramid could have been used to generate some kind of energy, and its shape and orientation to the cardinal directions have a special, sacred meaning. For example, many researchers note that the proportions of the pyramid reveal the so-called golden ratio, a mathematical harmony that is often found in nature and architecture and is considered a symbol of beauty and perfection. These amazing coincidences give rise to various hypotheses and assumptions that the ancient Egyptians may have possessed knowledge and technologies that have been lost to us over time. Another mystery associated with the Pyramid of Giza remains the question of why there are practically no traditional paintings, bas-reliefs, or other decorative elements inside the pyramid, which are characteristic of most Egyptian tombs and temples. No images of gods, no detailed scenes from the afterlife, and no prayerful appeals dedicated to the pharaoh were found in the internal chambers of the pyramid. This complete absence of any decorative elements raises many questions and gives rise to a variety of assumptions. Perhaps the pyramid had some special ritual purpose unknown to modern researchers, or perhaps the interior decoration of the pyramid was simply not completed for some reason. There are also numerous myths and legends concerning the methods and technologies used in the construction of the Pyramid of Giza. One of the most daring and extravagant hypotheses suggests that the pyramid may have been built not by humans, but by representatives of some extraterrestrial civilization who possessed knowledge and technologies far superior to the capabilities of the ancient Egyptians. Adherents of this theory often point to the incredible accuracy of the fitting of stone blocks, the enormous mass of these blocks, and the difficulty of transporting them and lifting them to great heights, which, in their opinion, could not have been accomplished without the help of alien technologies. Of course, this theory is not supported by any scientific facts or evidence and is more of a fantastic nature, but it adds an aura of mysticism and mystery to the pyramid, attracting even more attention to it. Numerous hidden chambers and secret passages located inside the pyramid and still not fully explored create a special intrigue. In the 19th century, British engineer Howard Weiss discovered several relieving chambers located above the pharaoh's burial chamber. It is assumed that these spaces were used to redistribute the weight of the overlying stone blocks and reduce pressure on the burial chamber to prevent its collapse. However, modern technologies such as muon scanning have made it possible to discover new voids and hidden rooms inside the pyramid, one of which is a huge room located above the Grand Gallery. Scientists are still debating its purpose and functions. Was this room another relieving chamber, a secret room intended for storing valuables, or does it have some other unknown purpose? Legends and myths also surround the treasures of Pharaoh Khufu. In ancient times, it was widely believed that the pharaoh was buried with incredible wealth, including a huge amount of gold, precious stones, and rare artifacts of great historical and cultural value. However, despite numerous searches, none of these treasures have ever been found. Some researchers suggest that robbers broke into the pyramid and plundered it in ancient times, taking away all the valuables. But there are also those who believe that the secret chambers hiding these riches have yet to be found, and they still remain untouched. The connection of the Pyramid of Giza with astronomy is another of the great mysteries that excites scientists and researchers. Some researchers argue that the three large pyramids located in Giza are built in such a way as to correspond to the location of the three stars that make up the Orion's belt. This assumption is supported by numerous studies that show that the ancient Egyptians paid great attention to astronomy and astrological observations, which played an important role in their culture and religion. In addition, the ventilation shafts located inside the pyramid are oriented in such a way as to coincide with the position of certain stars, such as Sirius and Alnitak, which further enhances the sense of the pyramid's connection with celestial bodies. Many of the mysteries associated with the pyramid are closely intertwined with the personality of Pharaoh Khufu, Unfortunately, we know very little reliable information about him. Historians are still debating whether he was a despotic and cruel ruler who forced thousands of slaves to build the pyramid, or a wise and just leader who inspired his subjects to create this grandiose monument, which was to immortalize his name for centuries. Finally, one of the most enthralling and imagination-stirring legends suggests that the Great Pyramid holds secrets capable of fundamentally changing our understanding of human history and overturning existing perceptions of ancient civilizations. Some believe that within the pyramid lie hidden ancient texts or artifacts containing knowledge lost to time and revealing mysteries concealed from us for ages. The Great Pyramid of Giza remains not only the greatest architectural achievement of antiquity, but also an immortal symbol of humanity's quest for knowledge, the unraveling of mysteries, and the overcoming of the boundaries of the unknown. Each new archaeological find and every new scientific study reveals more and more questions related to the Great Pyramid of Giza, making it an eternal enigma that continues to inspire researchers, archaeologists, historians, and simply dreamers from around the world, all striving to unlock its secrets. Setting aside the mysteries and engineering achievements of the Great Pyramid of Giza, we mentally transport ourselves to a completely different world, a green oasis that, according to legends, once stood tall among the vast sands of ancient Babylon. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, considered the second of the seven wonders of the ancient world, have become a symbol of the eternal human dream of a harmonious blend of nature and architecture, of creating a paradise on earth. But were these gardens a reality? Did they actually exist? Or are they merely a beautiful legend born from the imagination of ancient writers and poets who celebrated their beauty and grandeur? The gardens were described as a grandiose and majestic structure, consisting of cascading terraces generously adorned with a variety of flowers, shady trees, and lush shrubs, which created the illusion for the viewer that they were hanging in the air, hovering above the ground. According to ancient lore, these gardens were built by the powerful King Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BC for his beloved wife Amytis, who longed for the green mountains and forests of her homeland, Media, located in the northern part of modern-day Iran. The gardens were not only meant to adorn the king's palace and please his wife, but also to symbolize the unsurpassed power of the king, who had managed to subdue nature itself and force it to serve his will, creating an artificial paradise in the middle of the arid desert. However, the first thing that raises serious doubts about the reality of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon is the complete lack of any mention of them in the texts of Nebuchadnezzar II himself and his contemporaries. Chronicles of that period, including numerous cuneiform tablets, describe in detail the construction of palaces, temples, defensive walls, and other structures in Babylon. But nowhere do they mention the marvelous Hanging Gardens. The first descriptions of the gardens appeared only centuries later, in the writings of ancient authors such as Strabo and Diodorus Siculus. These authors may have relied on oral legends and traditions passed down from generation to generation, or on erroneous interpretations of earlier historical records and documents. Another important question to consider when examining the reality of the Hanging Gardens is how, in the hot and arid climate of the desert, could such a complex irrigation system have been created and maintained necessary to sustain the lives of numerous plants? According to legends, water was delivered to the upper terraces of the gardens using a complex mechanism resembling Archimedes' screw, a device invented by the ancient Greek scientist Archimedes and designed to lift water to great heights. This system would have had to constantly supply water to the vast terraces filled with thousands of different plants, which would have required an incredible level of knowledge and experience in hydraulics and engineering. However, no archaeological evidence of the existence of such a mechanism in Babylon has yet been found. There is also an alternative hypothesis that relocates the Hanging Gardens from Babylon to Nineveh, the capital of the powerful Assyrian Empire, located in modern-day Iraq. Some historians believe that the creator of these gardens may have been the Assyrian king Sennacherib, who was famous for his ambitious construction projects and engineering achievements. Traces of a complex system of canals and aqueducts have indeed been discovered in Nineveh, which could have been used to irrigate gardens and parks. These archaeological findings make the version about the existence of the Hanging Gardens in Nineveh more plausible and convincing than the traditional legend about Babylon. No less mysterious and confusing is the question of the origin of the garden's name and why they bear the name of Semiramis. Semiramis, after whom they are named, is a more mythological figure than a historical one, and her existence is not confirmed by any reliable historical sources. Her image embodies strength, beauty, wisdom, and military valor, but no real historical evidence of her existence has yet been found. Some scholars believe that the name of Semiramis may have been attributed to the gardens much later in order to associate them with the image of the legendary queen known for her beauty, wisdom, and power, and thereby give the gardens even greater fame and popularity. But let's try to learn a little more about who this Semiramis was, whose name these legendary gardens bear. The figure of Semiramis is shrouded in a dense veil of myths and mysteries, which makes her one of the most amazing and enigmatic women of antiquity. Semiramis, or Shamuramat, as she was called in Assyria, was actually a real historical figure, not just a figment of the imagination of ancient writers. She was the wife of the Assyrian king Shamshi-Adad V, who ruled in the 9th century BC. After the untimely death of her husband, she became regent for her son, Adad-nirari III, temporarily taking over the rule of one of the most powerful empires of the time, which in itself is an exceptional fact for that era, when women rarely played an active role in the political life of society. However, her real historical role is by no means limited to dry facts and figures. Greek and Roman historians, such as Diodorus Siculus and Herodotus, transform Semiramis into an almost mythical figure, surrounded by an aura of legends and traditions. In their colorful and fascinating descriptions, she appears to us as a wise, powerful, and incredibly beautiful woman whose exploits and achievements border on fantasy. Her name was closely associated with the founding of the majestic Babylon and the construction of its famous walls, temples, palaces, and other outstanding structures. Many believe that it was she who inspired or even directly created the Hanging Gardens, which were later recognized as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Semiramis was also depicted in ancient sources as a skilled commander, a talented strategist and tactician who successfully expanded the borders of her empire through conquests and military campaigns. According to one legend, she even tried to conquer distant India, but, faced with fierce resistance from the locals, was forced to retreat. In other stories and legends, her wisdom, intelligence, and ability to find a way out of the most difficult and confusing situations are particularly emphasized, thanks to which she managed to stay in power in a world where strong and powerful men ruled. Legends about her origin also add to her mystery and mystique. According to one story, she was the daughter of the goddess Derceto, who abandoned her newborn daughter to the whim of fate. The girl, left without maternal care, was found by a shepherd who raised her, and then she was noticed and taken as a wife by the king, struck by her beauty and mind. This mythical plot was probably added to her biography much later to emphasize her divine origin and exceptional greatness. However, many of her exploits and achievements, described in detail in ancient texts, are not supported by reliable historical data and archaeological finds. Most modern historians and researchers believe that her real role in history was somewhat more modest. As regent for her young son, she skillfully ruled the state during a period of political instability and strengthened the power of her son, preparing him for future rule. Nevertheless, her name over time has become a symbol of female strength, wisdom, beauty, and outstanding leadership qualities. Semiramis became a kind of collective image, incorporating the features of various influential women and rulers of antiquity. She was, and will forever remain, a legend, the personification of beauty, mind, power, and indomitable will. Even if her achievements were somewhat exaggerated by ancient historians and writers, she continues to inspire people today, remaining a shining example of how legend can surpass realities and gain immortality. What could the Hanging Gardens of Babylon have looked like if they really existed? Detailed descriptions of the gardens, preserved in the writings of ancient authors, inspire modern researchers and artists to create their own images and reconstructions of this legendary wonder of the world. Although to date no convincing archaeological evidence has been found to confirm the existence of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, reconstructions based on surviving historical texts and engineering knowledge of antiquity allow us to imagine what this green oasis, drowning in flowers and greenery, could have been like. Imagine a massive, multi-tiered structure built of sturdy brick or stone. Each terrace, artfully supported by sturdy columns and graceful arches, is covered with a thick layer of fertile soil, deep enough to grow not only low-growing shrubs and bright flowers, but also large trees, creating shade and coolness. The plants were carefully selected and arranged in such a way that the cascades of lush greenery, gently descending from the upper terraces, created the illusion for the viewer of hanging gardens, as if floating in the air, defying the laws of gravity. The terraces were connected by stairs or inclined paths, allowing the inhabitants of the palace and their numerous guests to leisurely stroll among the lush vegetation, enjoying the beauty and aroma of flowers. The centerpiece of the entire garden composition was likely an elaborate and sophisticated irrigation system. Ancient texts describe an ingenious mechanism that carried water from the abundant Euphrates River to the very top of the structure. Perhaps this was a screw-like device, similar to Archimedes' screw, or a complex system of water elevators that sequentially lifted water to the upper terraces of the garden. From there, the water cascaded down in waterfalls or small streams, irrigating the plants on each level and sustaining their vitality. The sound of flowing water, gently murmuring over stones and leaves, created an atmosphere of tranquility and peace, filling the gardens with the sounds of nature and washing away all worries and cares. The gardens likely presented a striking and astonishing contrast to the surrounding desert landscape where sand, stone, and scorching sun predominated. The vegetation adorning the hanging gardens of Babylon may have included a wide variety of exotic trees and flowers, brought in from various regions, including Media, the homeland of Queen Amytis. It is possible that pomegranates, slender cypresses, date palms, fragrant jasmine, and exquisite roses grew there, adding not only beauty and variety to the gardens, but also a unique fragrance that filled the air and delighted the sense of smell. For structural strength and longevity, asphalt and baked bricks were used, which were characteristic of Babylonian architecture of that era. A layer of insulation consisting of stone and resin-soaked reeds may have effectively prevented water leakage, which was especially important for keeping the terraces in good condition and preventing the destruction of the entire structure. The gardens were undoubtedly surrounded by tall palace walls, which protected them from the scorching sun, strong winds, sandstorms, and the prying eyes of outsiders. In the evening, as the sun slowly set below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant golden and crimson hues, the gardens were filled with the warm and soft light of sunset, making them even more majestic and beautiful. Perhaps the gardens contained exquisitely crafted fountains, elegant statues of gods and heroes, as well as comfortable benches for relaxation, transforming this place into a true paradise for the ruling elite of Babylon. Although all these details remain mere hypotheses and assumptions based on historical sources and archaeological data, reconstructions of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon allow us to envision how magnificent, astonishing, and truly paradisiacal this man-made oasis could have been. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, if they truly existed, were not only an impressive symbol of engineering prowess and architectural genius, but also an embodiment of humanity's eternal dream of harmony with nature and the conquest of its elements. Following the grandeur and mysteries of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, we journey to ancient Greece, a land of philosophy, art, and deep reverence for its gods who dwelled on Mount Olympus. In the very heart of this great civilization, in sacred Olympia, stood one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the statue of Zeus, which became a vivid and impressive embodiment of the greatness and power of the supreme god of the Greek pantheon. The cult of Zeus held a central place in ancient Greek religion. He was considered the god of the sky, thunder, and lightning, as well as the protector of order, justice, and morality. Olympia, where the main sanctuary of Zeus was located, gradually became a symbol of the unity of the Greek city-states, despite their frequent discords and wars among themselves. Here, not only were numerous religious rites and sacrifices performed in honor of Zeus, but also the famous Olympic Games were held, which took place every 4 years in his honor and gathered athletes and spectators from all over Greece. These games served not only as a platform for athletic competitions and identifying the strongest athletes, but also as an important act of worship to the supreme god, emphasizing the harmony of body, mind, and spirit. those eternal ideals that were firmly associated with the image of Zeus in the minds of the ancient Greeks. The statue of Zeus, skillfully created by the renowned sculptor Phidias around 435 BC, was not simply an outstanding work of art demonstrating the talent and skill of ancient Greek masters. It became a symbol of the absolute power of the god over the entire world, a visible embodiment of his might and greatness. The statue stood approximately 12 meters tall, making it one of the largest and most impressive sculptures of the ancient world, captivating the imaginations of contemporaries. Zeus was depicted majestically enthroned, his imposing figure personifying grandeur, strength, and unwavering power. In one hand, he held a small statue of Nike, the goddess of victory, symbolizing triumph and superiority, and in the other, a scepter with an eagle, which was a symbol of his unlimited power over the earth and sky. The throne on which Zeus sat was a true masterpiece of jewelry and carpentry. It was lavishly adorned with ivory, pure gold, valuable ebony wood, and sparkling precious stones. On its surface, Phidias skillfully depicted scenes from Greek mythology, narrating the birth and deeds of Zeus, thereby emphasizing the divine origin of the supreme god and his glorious victories over the forces of chaos and darkness. This skillful combination of exquisite materials, fine craftsmanship, and detailed carving made the statue incredibly impressive and mesmerizing, especially when combined with the soft, diffused light pouring into the temple through skillfully designed architectural elements. For the ancient Greeks, this statue was not only an object of religious worship, but also an embodiment of their ideal of beauty, harmony, and perfection. It symbolized the harmony between the human and the divine, showing how art can reflect the greatness of the gods and inspire people to achieve great things. The majestic figure of Zeus inspired awe and deep respect, reminding everyone of his role as the protector of justice, the patron of arts and sciences, as well as the protector of the entire Greek people, uniting them into a single whole. Olympia became a place of pilgrimage for thousands of people who flocked here from all corners of Greece to see this unsurpassed masterpiece and pay homage to the supreme god. The statue of Zeus inspired believers, reminding them of the strength, wisdom, and unity of the Hellenes, as well as the importance of religion and spirituality in their lives. For the ancient Greeks, it was not merely a skillfully crafted image of a god, but also a symbol of their culture, faith, and tireless pursuit of excellence in all spheres of life. The creation of the statue of Zeus at Olympia became one of the most complex and ambitious projects of antiquity, demonstrating the incredible skill, talent, and artistic genius of ancient Greek sculptors. Phidias, a renowned master of his time, applied unique artistic and engineering techniques to create not just a statue, but a living image that would inspire awe, respect, and remind people of the divine power and greatness of Zeus. The foundation of the entire sculpture was a sturdy wooden frame, which served as a skeleton for attaching other, more valuable materials. To strengthen the structure and ensure its longevity, special inserts and joints were used, carefully treated with moisture-resistant compounds to prevent the wood from deteriorating under the influence of moisture. The frame was artfully concealed beneath layers of pure gold and the finest ivory, creating the statue's unique appearance and captivating the imaginations of viewers. The ivory used to create the face, hands, and other exposed parts of Zeus's body was processed with exceptional care and attention to detail in order to accurately convey the texture, hue, and gentle radiance of human skin. To add greater brightness and brilliance to Zeus's clothing, thin sheets of pure gold were used, manufactured using a complex gilding technique. This precious material symbolized divine radiance, and every detail of his luxurious armor, elegant sandals, and flowing cloak was skillfully adorned with small ornaments that enhanced the sense of wealth, power, and unwavering might. The drawings and patterns on the clothing depicted scenes from Greek mythology, including exciting scenes of the battle of gods and titans, thereby emphasizing the victorious nature of Zeus and his triumph over the forces of chaos. The throne on which Zeus sat was not merely a stand or a seat, but an independent work of art worthy of admiration. It was skillfully inlaid with valuable ebony wood and decorated with inlays of glittering gold, pure silver, and radiant precious stones, which reflected the light and created a mesmerizing effect. On the back and armrests of the throne, Phidias created skillfully crafted carvings of mythological creatures, such as mighty centaurs and majestic griffins, as well as symbols of power and strength, such as the eagle, which was a symbol of Zeus, and his fearsome lightning bolts. Each of these carvings was not just a decorative element adorning the throne, but also told a story, connecting Zeus with his role as the supreme god and ruler of Olympus. Special attention was paid to the details of the statue, which emphasized its grandeur and perfection. The eyes of Zeus, skillfully made of precious stones, seemed to come alive when rays of light fell upon them, and the statuette of Nike in the god's hand looked so delicate and detailed that many considered it a separate work of art worthy of admiration. The scepter, which Zeus held in his other hand, was adorned with sparkling emeralds and inlaid with intricate patterns symbolizing the god's inseparable connection with the sky and earth, his power over all the elements. Special attention was paid to how the statue was perceived in the temple space. The light penetrating through the windows was carefully planned to illuminate the majestic figure of Zeus in such a way that he appeared radiant, alive, and full of divine power. This effect was enhanced by the reflection of light from the golden and ivory surfaces, creating a mystical and sublime atmosphere in the temple, conducive to prayer and worship. Phidias's workshop in Olympia, where the statue of Zeus was created, was equipped with the latest technology of the time and was a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility. The best master craftsmen worked here, engaged in the processing of precious metals, ivory, rare woods, and precious stones. The remnants of molds and tools unearthed by archaeologists in this workshop vividly illustrate the labor-intensive, meticulous, and precise process involved in crafting the statue of Zeus. The story of the statue of Zeus at Olympia tragically concluded and remains a puzzle that researchers and art historians are still striving to solve. This masterpiece of ancient art, created to honor the supreme god of the ancient Greeks, endured centuries of admiration and reverence, yet ultimately vanished, leaving behind only memories, legends, and a handful of historical accounts. For several centuries, the statue of Zeus adorned the temple at Olympia, drawing thousands of pilgrims from across Greece and other regions of the Mediterranean. It served not only as a religious object, but also as a symbol of the cultural grandeur and flourishing of the Hellenic civilization. However, with the decline of the Olympic Games and the prohibition of pagan rituals in 394 AD by order of Emperor Theodosius I, the Temple of Zeus gradually lost its former significance. Over time, its structures began to crumble, leaving the majestic statue of Zeus without proper protection or care. The fate of the statue itself remains a subject of debate and contention among historians. One of the most prevalent and plausible theories suggests that in the 5th century AD, the statue was transported to Constantinople, the capital of the mighty Eastern Roman Empire. There, it was purportedly installed in the palace of one of the emperors to continue inspiring people with its ethereal beauty and grandeur, reminding them of the past glory of ancient Greece. However, in 475, a major fire erupted in Constantinople, engulfing a significant portion of the city and obliterating numerous buildings and precious works of art, including in all likelihood the magnificent statue of Zeus. This devastating fire is considered one of the most probable causes of its final disappearance from the face of the earth. Other researchers, adhering to an alternative viewpoint, speculate that the statue may have remained in Olympia and been destroyed as a result of the numerous natural disasters that struck the region. Earthquakes, which repeatedly occurred in this area, not only demolished the temple of Zeus, but also its surrounding structures, reducing them to ruins. If the statue indeed remained in its original location, it could very well have been damaged or completely obliterated beneath the rubble of the ruined temple. There's also a version suggesting that the statue fell victim to vandalism and destruction at the hands of Christian zealots who, in late antiquity, sought to eradicate paganism and obliterate all symbols and attributes of the pagan religion. The gold and ivory, generously employed in its creation, may have been looted, melted down, and repurposed for other uses, which could also have contributed to its disappearance and oblivion. Archaeological findings discovered in Phidias's workshop, where the statue was created, allow scholars to reconstruct some details of its appearance, the materials used, and the manufacturing techniques. However, regrettably, no physical fragments of the statue of Zeus itself have ever been found, making it one of the greatest and most irreparable losses to the world's cultural heritage. Today, we can only behold the picturesque ruins of the Temple of Zeus in Olympia, which once served as the majestic home for this magnificent sculpture that astonished the imagination of its contemporaries. Nevertheless, its memory continues to live on thanks to surviving ancient texts, detailed descriptions from ancient travelers, and impressive reconstructions created by modern artists. The disappearance of the statue of Zeus became a poignant symbol of how even the greatest creations of art, crafted by the genius of humankind, can be irretrievably lost under the relentless force of time, leaving behind only faint memories and inspiration for future generations. From the grandeur of the statue of Zeus at Olympia, a vivid symbol of the power, wisdom, and majesty of the supreme god, we journey to Asia Minor, to the ancient and prosperous city of Ephesus, to become acquainted with another renowned wonder of the world, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. This grandiose temple, dedicated to the goddess of nature, hunting, fertility, and the patroness of all living things, was not merely a religious object intended for worship. It became a vivid and striking embodiment of the high level of artistic and engineering skill achieved by the ancient Greeks, and it also served as an important center of cultural, economic, and political life in the ancient world. The Temple of Artemis was rightfully considered one of the 7 wonders of the world, primarily due to its immense size, grandeur, and the magnificence of its architectural ornamentation. Constructed in the 6th century BC, it became the largest temple of its time, significantly surpassing even the famous Parthenon, located in Athens in terms of its dimensions. It was a building of incredible dimensions, astonishing the imaginations of its contemporaries. The temple's length exceeded 115 meters, its width was approximately 55 meters, and the height of the columns reached 20 meters. In total, the temple was supported by 127 columns, artfully arranged in several rows, creating the impression for visitors that they were in a grand forest comprised of marble trees. These majestic columns not only served as support for the temple's roof, but also symbolized the harmony between nature and human art, emphasizing the connection of the goddess Artemis with the surrounding world. However, it wasn't just the impressive dimensions that made the Temple of Artemis so special and appealing to people. Its significance for the residents of Ephesus and the entire Greek world was truly immense and invaluable. Artemis was one of the most revered and beloved goddesses of the Greek pantheon, embodying fertility, protection of women, patronage of wild animals, and harmony with the surrounding nature. Ephesus was considered her sacred city, and the temple was the place where the goddess manifested her power and grace, providing assistance and support to all who needed it. The residents of the city sincerely believed that Artemis protected them from all sorts of calamities, illnesses, and misfortunes, and also granted them prosperity, well-being, and abundance. The Temple of Artemis very quickly became a place of pilgrimage for people from all over Greece and other regions of the Mediterranean who came here to bring generous gifts to the goddess and pay her deserved homage. The Temple of Artemis was not only an important religious center, but also a significant cultural symbol. Its construction, maintenance, and regular renovation demonstrated the wealth, prosperity, and power of Ephesus, transforming the city into one of the main centers of trade and craftsmanship in the entire Mediterranean. Merchants, artisans, artists, scientists, and travelers flocked here from all corners of the world, bringing their goods, knowledge, new ideas, and customs. Thus, the temple became an important hub connecting various cultures and regions, strengthening Ephesus's role as a thriving international center open to all that was new and progressive. The unique location of the temple also emphasized its special significance and connection with nature. It was built on marshy land, which in itself required incredible ingenuity, engineering skill, and the application of advanced technologies from the builders. This unusual location was chosen intentionally. It symbolized Artemis's close connection with nature, her unlimited power over the land and water, and her ability to protect all living things. The marshy soil, as believed in ancient times, protected the temple from devastating earthquakes that frequently occurred in the region, confirming the mythological power of the goddess, guarding her sacred sanctuary. But the main thing that made the Temple of Artemis one of the 7 wonders of the world was its deep symbolic meaning for ancient people. This place embodied not only architectural and engineering skill, but also a deep faith in the goddess, who embodied hope, protection, fertility, and prosperity. People came here not only to perform religious rites and make sacrifices, but also to feel the touch of something great, divine, and timeless. The Temple of Artemis in Ephesus was not only grandiose in its scale, but also stunning in its beauty, the elegance of architectural solutions, and the richness of its interior decoration. Its builders and sculptors used the most innovative methods and exquisite materials to create a temple that would later become a symbol of the perfection of ancient Greek architecture and a model for imitation. The temple was dedicated to Artemis, one of the most revered and beloved goddesses of the Greek pantheon. She personified nature, hunting, fertility, and reliable protection of women, especially during pregnancy and childbirth. Artemis was the goddess to whom they turned for help in giving birth to healthy children and protecting young maidens. And her close connection with nature was emphasized by the image of a huntress surrounded by wild animals. In Ephesus, she was especially revered as the goddess of fertility and the generous patroness of the city, linking her name with the abundance and prosperity of the region. It was these aspects of her cult that found their most vivid expression in the architecture, sculptural decoration, and decorative design of the temple. The temple was built in the graceful Ionic style, known for its elegance, harmonious proportions, and refined decor. Its massive columns, reaching a height of about 20 meters, not only reliably supported the roof of the temple, but it also created a sense of lightness, airiness, and amazing harmony for visitors. In total, the temple had 127 columns, each of which was skillfully covered with carvings depicting mythological scenes, intricate patterns, and symbols closely associated with the goddess Artemis and her cult. Some of these columns were so exquisitely adorned by talented sculptors and carvers that they were considered works of art in themselves and aroused admiration in all who beheld them. The main structure of the temple was built of sparkling white marble, which gave it a special splendor and radiance in the rays of the bright sun. Precious materials such as pure gold and valuable ivory were used to create some decorative details, which emphasized the wealth, prosperity, and grandeur of the city of Ephesus. Intricately crafted, carved panels adorned the walls, porticos, and other elements of the temple, depicting scenes from myths associated with Artemis, her hunts, nature, and numerous exploits. These beautiful bas-reliefs not only embellished the temple, but also served as illustrations of well-known stories and legends familiar to every temple visitor. A majestic statue of Artemis of Ephesus occupied the central place in the temple, which in itself was a true masterpiece of jewelry and sculpture. It was made of pure gold and precious ivory, and its clothing was densely covered with images of animals and symbols of fertility, such as industrious bees, noble deer, and other sacred animals. This clearly emphasized the goddess's close connection with nature and her role as the patroness of all life on earth. According to numerous descriptions, the statue had a solemn and majestic appearance, inspiring awe, reverence, and deep respect in everyone who entered the temple. Another unique and memorable feature of the temple was its skillfully crafted roof. It was covered with durable terracotta tiles and decorated with elegant sculptural elements, such as acroteria, which are decorative figures located on the edges and at the highest point of the roof. These sculptures, depicting mythological creatures, gods, and symbols associated with Artemis, added even more decorative richness, elegance, and grandeur to the temple. Special attention was paid to the temple's location and its harmonious integration into the surrounding landscape. It was built to blend seamlessly into its surroundings, emphasizing the connection between humanity and nature. The temple stood majestically on a massive marble foundation, which not only protected it from the destructive effects of moisture rising from the marshy soil, but also provided additional stability. This foundation in itself was adorned with intricate carvings and served as a symbolic transition between ordinary land and the sacred territory dedicated to the goddess Artemis. The interior of the temple was no less impressive than its exterior. The space inside was carefully designed to direct every visitor's gaze directly to the majestic statue of Artemis. Light penetrating the temple through windows artfully placed high in the walls created a soft, mysterious glow, that seemed to emanate from the statue itself, giving it a divine appearance. The temple floor was paved with polished marble slabs, some of which were intricately inlaid with precious stones, adding even more luxury, richness, and splendor to the interior. This masterpiece of ancient architecture was repeatedly subjected to destruction, but each time it was rebuilt with incredible perseverance and devotion by the residents of Ephesus, reflecting not only the highest skill of the builders and architects, but also the deep, sincere devotion of the residents of Ephesus to their beloved goddess. The first significant destruction occurred in 356 BC when the temple was burned down by Herostratus, an ambitious man who sought to immortalize his name in history by destroying one of the world's greatest structures. This insane act of vandalism destroyed much of the temple, including its intricately crafted wooden elements, sturdy roof, and damaged the precious statue of Artemis. This barbaric act aroused immense anger and outrage among the inhabitants of Ephesus and the entire Greek world, who regarded it as sacrilege and disrespect for the gods. Herostratus' name was forever cursed, and they tried to erase it from history, forbidding even a simple mention of it, so as not to give him the opportunity to achieve his goal and become famous. However, instead of leaving the sacred place in ruins and mourning the loss, the inhabitants of Ephesus, filled with determination and faith, decided to rebuild the temple, making it even more luxurious, majestic, and beautiful than before. Thanks to generous donations collected from all over Greece, as well as financial support from Alexander the Great himself, the temple was rebuilt and shone with renewed vigor. The new temple became even more magnificent than its predecessor, with even more exquisite decorations, beautiful works of art, and an improved structure capable of withstanding strong earthquakes. This grand restoration became a shining symbol of perseverance, unwavering faith, and cultural resilience, proving to the world that culture and religion are capable of overcoming even the most severe trials, tribulations, and destruction. But unfortunately, tragedy did not bypass the temple in the centuries that followed. In the 3rd century AD, the thriving Ephesus was brutally attacked by warlike Goths who plundered and burned the city, destroying many of its buildings, including the magnificent Temple of Artemis. This sad event marked a turning point in the history of the temple, as it was no longer restored to its full scale and splendor. By this time, the influence of Christianity in the region had increased significantly, and the cult of Artemis began to gradually fade away, giving way to new religious beliefs. The parts of the temple that remained after the destruction were used as building material for the construction of new buildings, including Christian churches, including the famous Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, symbolizing the victory of Christianity over paganism. The final destruction of the temple occurred as a result of numerous natural disasters that struck the region. Earthquakes, which repeatedly shook the area, finally destroyed the remains of the temple, turning it into a pile of ruins and debris. By the 6th century AD, the place where one of the greatest wonders of the world once stood had become an abandoned and unwanted wasteland. Despite this, the memory of the Temple of Artemis continued to live on in numerous ancient texts, colorful legends, and traditions. In the 19th century, European archaeologists began excavations in Ephesus and discovered the remains of the temple's solid foundation, as well as fragments of its massive columns, intricately crafted sculptures, and other decorations. These valuable finds allowed scientists to reconstruct a general idea of its greatness, size, and significance for the ancient world. Today, the place where the magnificent Temple of Artemis once stood attracts curious travelers from all over the world, seeking to touch ancient history and culture. The site where the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus once stood majestically is now an archaeological zone located near the modern town of Selçuk in Turkey. It is one of the most famous and visited places in the ancient world, although only picturesque ruins remain of the temple itself. Modern tourists can see traces of the solid foundation, several partially restored columns, and scattered fragments of marble blocks, which eloquently recall the once majestic structure that amazed the imagination of contemporaries. Moving on from the grandeur and beauty of the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, we mentally transport ourselves to the bustling city of Halicarnassus, located on the picturesque coast of the Aegean Sea, modern-day Bodrum in Turkey. It was here that another world-famous wonder of the world was located, the majestic and luxurious mausoleum, built in honor of King Mausolus and his loving wife, Artemisia II. This monument became not only a symbol of eternal love, devotion, and marital fidelity, but also an impressive embodiment of the ambitions and aspirations of rulers eager to leave an indelible mark on history and the memory of posterity. Mausolus, a talented king of Korea, ruled in the 4th century BC. His possessions were under the strong influence of the powerful Persian Empire, but he was actually an independent ruler, skillfully maneuvering between the interests of the great powers of his time. Mausolus was an outstanding politician, a skilled diplomat, and a talented strategist. He successfully strengthened his power, significantly expanded the borders of Korea, and turned the modest Halicarnassus into a thriving cultural, economic, and political center, attracting merchants, artisans, and scholars from all over the world. One of his main achievements was the wise decision to move the capital of Korea to the rapidly developing Halicarnassus, where he began a grand construction project, including powerful fortifications, luxurious palaces, and of course, the majestic mausoleum, which would later become legendary and glorify his name for centuries. However, Mausolus was known not only for his active political activity, but also for his close, trusting relationship with his beloved wife and sister, Artemisia II. In ancient times, marriages between close relatives among noble and influential families were not uncommon and were seen as a way to preserve power and wealth. And this union was not only a family matter, but also an important political act. Artemisia was not only a faithful companion of Mausolus's life, but also his equal partner in governing the state. She was distinguished by her sharp mind, high level of education, and sincere desire to strengthen the greatness of Korea and increase the welfare of its inhabitants. Together, they created a rich cultural heritage that delighted contemporaries and descendants, making a huge contribution to the development of art, science, and architecture. When Mausolus unexpectedly passed away in 353 BC, Artemisia was inconsolable and deeply devastated by this irreparable loss. To perpetuate the memory of her beloved husband and express her boundless love, sorrow, and devotion, she decided to build a grand and luxurious mausoleum that would surpass all previously existing structures. This monument was not only to become a burial place, but also to symbolize the greatness of Mausolus, his wisdom, courage, justice, and the prosperity of Korea under his skillful leadership. Legends say that Artemisia grieved so deeply over the loss of her beloved husband that she even drank Mausolus's ashes mixed with expensive wine to always carry a part of him with her and feel his presence nearby. While this fact might be somewhat exaggerated, it underscores the depth of her sorrow, devotion, and boundless love for her late husband. For the construction of this remarkable mausoleum, Artemisia enlisted the finest craftsmen and architects of her time, including Satyrus and Pythias, as well as the renowned sculptors Scopas, Bryaxis, Leocharis, and Timotheus, celebrated for their talent and skill. Each of them made a unique contribution to the creation of this wonder of the world, skillfully blending elements of Greek, Carian, and Persian architecture, creating a unique and unparalleled style. Artemisia not only provided overall leadership for the construction, but also personally oversaw every stage of it to ensure that the mausoleum would be a worthy commemoration of her husband and reflect all his glory and greatness. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus was not merely a tomb intended for the repose of King Mausolus's remains. It became an awe-inspiring symbol of love, devotion, ambition, cultural synthesis, and the high level of development in art and architecture. Its unique design and magnificent execution laid the foundation for the creation of future architectural masterpieces and forever enshrined Mausolus's name in history, giving a name to all subsequent monumental tombs. Artemisia has been immortalized in history as a woman capable of transforming her profound grief and sorrow into the greatest work of art, celebrating love and immortality. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus became not only the final resting place of King Mausolus and his beloved wife Artemisia, but also an outstanding architectural masterpiece that impressed contemporaries with its unique design, exquisite decor, and rich sculptural adornment. Its original design skillfully combined elements of Greek, Carian, and Persian architecture, symbolizing the multifaceted nature of Carian culture and its close ties to various civilizations. The height of the majestic mausoleum was approximately 45 meters, making it one of the tallest and most prominent buildings of its time, towering over the city and attracting admiring glances. It stood on a solid and massive rectangular base, constructed from glistening white marble quarried from local quarries. The base, a stepped platform, symbolized strength, reliability, stability, and grandeur, creating a powerful and imposing foundation for the entire structure, capable of withstanding the trials of time. Above the base, rows of graceful columns, skillfully crafted in the elegant Ionic style, rose proudly surrounding the tomb on all sides. There were a total of 36 columns, which not only supported the roof but also created a visual effect of lightness, airiness, and refined grace. Between the columns were exquisitely crafted decorative panels with bas-reliefs depicting scenes from Greek and Carian mythology, scenes of hunting, battles, and the great feats of heroes, emphasizing the idea of Mausolus's divine greatness and his closeness to the gods. Of particular note was the mausoleum's unique pyramidal roof, which gave it its distinctive appearance. It consisted of 24-step layers that gradually converged towards the top, crowned by a magnificent sculptural composition depicting a chariot with 4 horses harnessed to it. This impressive figure, skillfully crafted from white marble, symbolized triumph, power, might, and the greatness of Mausolus, glorifying his achievements and immortal memory. The chariot driven by Mausolus himself was an expression of his unlimited power, supremacy, and eternal immortality, as if he were embarking on an endless journey that continued even after his death. The sculptural decoration of the mausoleum deserves separate admiration and detailed description. 4 famous and talented sculptors of their time, Scopas, Bryaxis, Leocharis, and Timotheus, worked to decorate different sides of the building, creating unique scenes that reflected not only the main stages of the lives of Mausolus and Artemisia, but also their rich cultural heritage, which left an indelible mark on history. Among the most famous and impressive images were scenes of the Battle of the Amazons, epic naval battles, and scenes involving gods and mythological heroes. Each side of the mausoleum had its own unique style, reflecting the individual skill, talent, and artistic vision of each of these outstanding masters. The central figure of the entire decorative design was a majestic statue of Mausolus and Artemisia, made in life-size and depicting them together. These sculptural images were placed at the very top of the mausoleum, towering over the city and emphasizing their role as powerful rulers worthy of worship and eternal memory. The details of the sculptures, including the graceful folds of clothing, expressive faces, and dynamic poses, demonstrated the outstanding skill of the sculptors of that time, who had reached an incredible level of perfection in their art. Although the magnificent mausoleum at Halicarnassus has long been destroyed and has almost completely disappeared from the face of the earth, individual parts of this outstanding structure have survived and give us an idea of its former grandeur, beauty, and splendor. Thanks to these valuable finds, modern archaeologists and historians can understand how the tomb was arranged and appreciate the engineering genius, talent, and high skill of ancient architects and sculptors. One of the most valuable and well-preserved fragments is part of the sculptural compositions that adorn the mausoleum. They were found as a result of archaeological excavations in the 19th century and are now carefully stored in the British Museum in London, being the most valuable exhibits in its collection. Among them are exquisitely crafted relief panels depicting fierce battles of the Amazons, captivating sea scenes, and mythical creatures that amaze the imagination with their realism. These details not only demonstrate the high artistic skill of the era, but also reveal the cultural context in which the mausoleum was created, reflecting ideas about the world, morality, and values of that time. The subjects of the reliefs reflect ideas about the strength, power, and might of King Mausolus and his inner circle, and also show how highly valued the themes of war and heroism were in ancient Korea. Of particular importance and value to researchers are fragments of columns and architectural details that have retained traces of bright paintings and elegant carvings on their surface, which allows them to reconstruct the original appearance of the structure. These valuable elements confirm that the mausoleum combines several different architectural styles, Greek, Carian, and Persian, representing a unique synthesis of cultures. For example, well-preserved Ionic order capitals testified to the strong influence of classical Greek architecture, while some decorative motifs indicate a noticeable Persian influence, which is not surprising given the geographical proximity of Persia and the close cultural ties between these regions. This vividly emphasizes the special status of Halicarnassus as a unique cultural crossroads, where the traditions of East and West were closely intertwined, creating a unique and unforgettable atmosphere. There is also certain data about the pyramidal roof of the mausoleum, which was its distinguishing feature. A part of the stepped masonry was discovered, which, according to most researchers, was part of this majestic roof that crowned the entire structure. It clearly demonstrates how ambitious, large-scale, and bold the idea was to create a huge pyramid above the colonnade, crowned with a skillfully crafted sculpture of a chariot driven by King Mausolus. Another important source of information about the mausoleum is the written evidence of ancient authors, such as Vitruvius and Pliny the Elder, as well as later chroniclers and travelers who visited Halicarnassus. Their detailed descriptions, supplemented by archaeological finds and numerous fragments, give us the opportunity to recreate the overall appearance of this outstanding structure and understand what an important role it played in the life of prosperous Halicarnassus. Collected together, the surviving fragments and written descriptions form a complete picture of the mausoleum at Halicarnassus as an outstanding masterpiece of art and engineering. They help us realize how high the level of skill of ancient architects and sculptors was, and also understand what a huge influence this majestic tomb had on the development of architecture throughout the Mediterranean region. The mausoleum became not only an impressive monument that immortalized the memory of King Mausolus and his beloved wife Artemisia, but also a convincing testimony to the cultural diversity, creative genius, and high level of technological development in the ancient world. After familiarizing ourselves with the history of the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, we moved to the sunny island of Rhodes, located in the Aegean Sea, where another of the seven wonders of the world stood, the famous Colossus of Rhodes. This monument, glorifying the sun god Helios, who was considered the patron saint of the island, became a symbol of courage, strength, freedom, and independence, inspiring not only the inhabitants of Rhodes, but also the entire ancient world. Rhodes, located in the heart of the Aegean Sea, was famous for its advantageous strategic position, developed trade, and powerful fleet. At the beginning of the 3rd century before the Common Era, it experienced one of the most glorious and memorable victories in its long history. After a year of fierce siege by Demetrius I Poliorcetes, the talented ruler of Cyprus and one of the most famous generals of his time, the brave inhabitants of Rhodes successfully defended their beloved city, becoming a symbol of resilience, courage, and steadfastness. Demetrius, having suffered a crushing defeat and heavy losses, was forced to retreat and leave behind numerous siege engines and weapons, which became valuable trophies for the victors. The inhabitants of Rhodes, filled with gratitude to their defenders and the sun god Helios, whom they considered the patron saint of their city, decided to perpetuate their glorious victory and thank their heavenly intercessor by erecting a majestic monument in his honor. The trophies and siege engines left after the siege were sold, and the proceeds were used to create a grandiose monument, the Colossus of Rhodes, which was to amaze the imagination of contemporaries and glorify the island for centuries. This statue was intended not only to emphasize the grandeur, wealth, and independence of Rhodes, but also to serve as a message to the entire world about the strength, unity, and steadfastness of the island's inhabitants, who were ready to defend their freedom and independence. Chares of Lindos, a talented sculptor and student of the renowned Lysippos, undertook the realization of this ambitious and complex project, which demanded immense skill, patience, and ingenuity. Legends say that the construction of the Colossus of Rhodes took a full 12 years of strenuous labor. The height of the colossal statue was approximately 110 feet, making it one of the tallest and most impressive structures of the ancient world, towering over the city and visible from afar. The Colossus majestically depicted the sun god Helios in a proud and imposing pose. His face was turned towards the sea, and his head was adorned with an artfully crafted crown of glittering sunbeams, symbolizing his divine radiance, which bestowed life and warmth upon all living things. In one of his hands, Helios held a torch, brightly illuminating the way for seafarers and guiding them safely into the harbor. While his imposing figure inspired awe, confidence in protection, and hope for a safe arrival in port. There is a widespread and popular myth that the Colossus stood directly at the entrance to the harbor, with ships sailing unhindered between his mighty legs. Although this version is most likely a work of fiction intended to emphasize the statue's grandeur and size, it vividly demonstrates the impression that the Colossus made on contemporaries and enhances its legendary status. In reality, the Colossus was most likely located on land, not far from the harbor, so that it could be easily seen from a distance as a symbol of protection, prosperity, and unwavering power. The construction of the Colossus of Rhodes became a vivid and impressive symbol of victory, not only because of its grandiose dimensions, but also because of the deep symbolism that the grateful inhabitants of Rhodes invested in it, glorifying their patron and protector. This majestic statue was more than just a monument to Helios, erected in gratitude for his help and support. It reflected the unity, pride, power, and unwavering faith of a city that had managed to stand against a strong and well-armed enemy, defending its freedom and independence. The very process of erecting the Colossus became an act of collective triumph, uniting all the inhabitants of the island. All segments of society actively participated in this important project, from selling trophies and collecting donations to directly working on the construction of the statue. The townspeople were not simply erecting a statue in honor of their god, they were creating a symbol of their resilience, unwavering will, and independence, which was intended to inspire themselves and their descendants to new achievements and victories. Every contribution to the construction of the Colossus strengthened the sense of community, cohesion, and mutual support among the inhabitants of Rhodes, helping them overcome any difficulties and adversities. It is important to note that the very idea of creating the Colossus as a generous offering to Helios vividly embodied the Rhodians' deep faith in divine justice and the help of higher powers. They sincerely believed that their glorious victory was the result not only of their own efforts but also of the blessing of the mighty sun, which had not abandoned them in their hour of need and had helped them win victory over the enemy. The statue became a visible reminder that even the most powerful and formidable adversaries can be defeated if one acts with determination, courage, and unwavering faith in one's cause. Another important point was the location of the Colossus, chosen with particular care. It was erected in such a place as to meet all ships approaching Rhodes and make an indelible impression on the guests and merchants arriving in the city. It was not only a proud reminder of the glorious victory, but also a clear statement of Rhodes' special status as a major center of power, trade, and culture in the Mediterranean. The statue literally looked out to sea, welcoming travelers and instilling in them respect for a city that could not be conquered. Despite the fact that the Colossus of Rhodes became a bright symbol of triumph, power, and prosperity, its fate turned out to be tragic and sad. This grandiose monument, which stood for just over half a century, was mercilessly destroyed as a result of one of the most devastating earthquakes in the history of antiquity, which shook the island of Rhodes. The tragedy occurred in approximately 226 BC, when a powerful earthquake measuring several points on the Richter scale shook the island of Rhodes, destroying many buildings and claiming the lives of thousands of people. The Colossus, majestically towering to a height of approximately 110 feet, could not withstand the strong tremors and collapsed with a crash. According to numerous ancient sources, the statue broke at the knees, and its massive bronze fragments were scattered throughout the area, turning it into a pile of rubble. Despite this sad event, even in its ruined state, the Colossus continued to amaze and astonish all who saw it, capturing the imagination with its size and grandeur. Pliny the Elder, admiring the greatness of the ruined Colossus, wrote that many intrepid travelers came to Rhodes specifically to see with their own eyes the impressive remains of this giant statue, which astonished the imagination with its size. After the earthquake, the inhabitants of Rhodes, concerned about what had happened, turned to the famous oracle at Delphi for advice on whether they should restore the ruined Colossus and spend huge sums on its reconstruction. However, the wise oracle advised them to leave the statue in ruins, explaining this as a sign of the will of the gods and warning against attempts to go against their will. Obedient inhabitants of Rhodes heeded the oracle's prophecy and did not restore the Colossus, leaving its picturesque remains in place for several centuries, attracting numerous tourists. The fragments of the destroyed statue lay on the ground until the 7th century AD, when Arab conquerors seized the island of Rhodes and put an end to its prosperity. According to numerous chronicles that have survived from those times, the remains of the Colossus were dismantled by the Arab conquerors and sold for scrap to obtain valuable metal. Legend has it that it took as many as 900 camels to transport these huge fragments, which clearly emphasizes the scale and size of the statue, even in its ruined state. Despite its physical disappearance, the legacy of the Colossus of Rhodes has continued to live on through the ages. This majestic monument has become a symbol of courage, resilience, unity, freedom, and independence, inspiring not only ancient authors but also subsequent generations of artists, poets, and writers. The Colossus of Rhodes became an archetype of grandiose statues praising strength and majesty, and served as an inexhaustible source of inspiration for the creation of many sculptures and monuments around the world, including the famous Statue of Liberty in New York, which is one of the most recognizable symbols of freedom and democracy. After learning about the history of the Colossuses of Rhodes, which stood guard over the island as a symbol of strength and unity, we mentally transport ourselves to sunny and prosperous Egypt, where the famous Lighthouse of Alexandria stood on the island of Pharos. This wonder of the world not only amazed contemporaries with its engineering perfection, but also had great practical significance, becoming one of the most important and reliable navigational structures of the ancient world. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was built around the 3rd century BC during the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus to guide ships into the bustling harbor of Alexandria, which at that time was one of the largest trading, cultural, and scientific centers of the Mediterranean. The city, founded by the great Alexander the Great, very quickly became an important hub of international trade, linking east and west. Its spacious and convenient harbor, reliably protected by the island of Pharos from strong winds and storms, received ships from all over the known world, but underwater rocks and shallows made entering it quite dangerous, especially at night and in bad weather. The need for the construction of the lighthouse was dictated by the urgent need to ensure the safety of seafarers and strengthen the status of Alexandria as the main seaport and center of international trade. The lighthouse did more than just serve as a landmark for ships, pointing them to a safe passage into the harbor. It became a vivid symbol of technological progress, scientific development, and the ambitions of the Hellenistic era, demonstrating to the world the engineering genius of the ancient Egyptians. Its enormous height, exceeding 330 feet, made it one of the tallest and most impressive structures of its time, surpassing many other famous buildings in height. It was the first lighthouse of this scale in history, and its bright light is said to have been visible from a distance of up to 31 miles, allowing ships to safely navigate the sea and avoid dangers. During the day, the lighthouse reflected the sun's rays with an artfully polished metal mirror, sending a bright signal to the sea, and at night a huge fire burned at its top, which was constantly maintained by special services that ensured that it did not go out. For many sailors, the lighthouse was a reliable guiding star, saving them from death and pointing the safe way to port. Many ancient authors admired the lighthouse and its invaluable role in ensuring the safety of maritime navigation, describing in detail how it helped ships safely reach the harbor even in the most stormy weather, pointing them in the right direction. But the lighthouse was important not only for seafarers. It significantly strengthened the role of Alexandria as a major center of trade, culture, science, and education, attracting to the city's scholars, philosophers, poets, and merchants from all over the world. Its bright light seemed to implicitly say to everyone approaching the city by sea, "Welcome to Alexandria, a thriving center of civilization, where knowledge is valued above all else." The Lighthouse of Alexandria also symbolized the power, wealth, and ambitions of the rulers of the Ptolemaic dynasty, who sought to glorify their name through the centuries and perpetuate the memory of their reign. It stood as a testament to their ability to seamlessly blend cutting-edge engineering achievements with ambitious plans to lead the Hellenistic world, surpassing all rivals. Thanks to the lighthouse, Alexandria attracted not only merchants, but also scholars, travelers, and talented artists who marveled at its grandeur, beauty, and unusual architectural style. The Lighthouse of Alexandria was not merely an outstanding engineering accomplishment of its time, but a true masterpiece of architecture and advanced technology, exerting a tremendous influence on the development of construction and maritime navigation for centuries. Its construction incorporated innovative solutions that allowed it to not only effectively perform its primary function, but also successfully withstand the tests of time and the destructive forces of nature. The lighthouse was built from large blocks of light-colored limestone, quarried locally, making it highly visible even from great distances and allowing ships to easily navigate the sea. These massive blocks were joined together using lead clamps and special mortars, which gave the entire structure extraordinary strength and resistance to the frequent earthquakes that occurred in the region. The use of such a joint was an advanced engineering solution for its time, as it allowed the blocks to move and shift slightly during tremors, preventing the building from collapsing. The lighthouse's design was carefully thought out and divided into 3 separate levels, each of which played a specific role in ensuring the stability and functionality of the entire structure. The lower section was a massive square foundation, providing stability to the entire structure and serving as a reliable base for the upper levels. The middle level was designed as an octagonal tower, which reduced resistance to strong winds and helped distribute the load evenly throughout the structure. The upper level, a cylindrical tower, was the lightest and culminated in an open platform where a fire burned, showing ships the way at night. This ingenious 3-tiered solution not only gave the lighthouse visual refinement, elegance, and harmony, but also ensured its stability for many centuries, allowing it to successfully withstand the forces of nature. One of the most amazing technological features of the lighthouse was the enormous mirror used to reflect bright sunlight. The polished metal surface, manufactured with the highest precision, made it possible to direct rays of light over great distances, significantly improving the lighthouse's visibility during the day and helping ships navigate at sea. At night, a large bonfire was lit on top of the lighthouse using wood and resin, and its light was also amplified by a reflective mirror, making it visible from afar. This was one of the earliest examples of the successful use of reflective technology in architecture, significantly increasing the lighthouse's efficiency. The longevity of the Lighthouse of Alexandria is explained not only by the high quality of the materials used and the well-thought-out design, but also by its enormous symbolic significance for the residents of Alexandria and all of Egypt. For the rulers of the Ptolemaic dynasty, the lighthouse was not merely a functional structure that facilitated navigation, but a powerful symbol of their power, might, and engineering prowess, demonstrating their high status in the Hellenistic world. Therefore, its construction was carried out using the most advanced technologies, cutting-edge engineering solutions, and a generous use of the resources of the time. Nevertheless, even the most sophisticated engineering, the most durable materials, and the most talented architects could not completely protect the Lighthouse of Alexandria from the destructive forces of nature. The Lighthouse of Alexandria stood successfully for several centuries, remaining not only a reliable navigational landmark, but also an important cultural and economic symbol, contributing to the prosperity of the city and all of Egypt. However, a series of strong earthquakes that occurred in the region, especially in 956, 1303, and 1323, caused irreparable damage to it, gradually destroying its structure. Over time, the magnificent lighthouse was reduced to ruins, and its stone blocks were used to build the citadel of Kayet Bey, which stands on this site to this day, recalling the former greatness and splendor of the ancient lighthouse. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, majestically towering on the island of Pharos, had a tremendous impact on the development of lighthouses and navigational structures around the world. Its innovative design, enormous size, and advanced technologies set high standards for the creation of lighthouses in subsequent eras, making it not only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, but also a model for future engineering achievements. Above all, the Lighthouse of Alexandria laid the foundation for the concept of a lighthouse as a multifunctional structure, combining practical benefits and symbolic meaning. It was not just a landmark for sailors, showing them a safe path to the harbor, but also a powerful symbol of the power, strength, wealth, progress, and cultural greatness of Alexandria and all of Egypt. This idea of combining practical benefit with aesthetics, beauty, and symbolism was widely reflected in lighthouses built in various parts of the Mediterranean and far beyond. Even centuries and millennia later, lighthouses not only illuminated the way for ships, but also became important architectural landmarks, emphasizing the high status of port cities and countries. The Lighthouse of Alexandria had a particular influence on the technological aspects of lighthouse construction. Its multi-tiered structure, including a massive foundation, a sturdy tower, and a special platform for fire, was adapted in various forms and modifications in lighthouses built in the Middle Ages and in modern times. For example, the three-tiered design provided resistance to strong winds and earthquakes and also made it easier to maintain the fire on top of the lighthouse. This design served as a prototype for many lighthouses built on the coasts of Europe, Asia, and the Americas. The technology of using mirrors to reflect light was also revolutionary and advanced for its time. Although ancient mirrors were probably inferior to modern ones in their efficiency and brightness, the very principle of directional reflection of light became the basis for the further development of optics and maritime navigation. Modern lighthouses use complex Fresnel lenses and other advanced optical systems, but their basic idea originates from the Lighthouse of Alexandria, which first demonstrated how directional reflection of light can significantly improve visibility for seafarers and increase the safety of navigation. The symbolic role of the lighthouse, as a light in the darkness, pointing the way and instilling hope, was also inherited from the famous Pharos Lighthouse. For all seafarers who found themselves far from home, the lighthouse became not only a life-saving landmark helping to avoid dangers, but also a symbol of hope for a safe return home, overcoming difficulties, and approaching the cherished goal. Many of the modern lighthouses in various countries around the world were inspired by the legend of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, including such famous structures as the Tower of Hercules in Spain and the Statue of Liberty in New York, which is also a lighthouse and at the same time a symbol of greatness and freedom. Let's now talk in more detail about the fate of the seven wonders of the world and try to understand why most of them have not survived to this day. The answer to this question is both simple and complex, as the preservation of these unique structures was influenced by many different factors, from natural disasters and wars to human carelessness and indifference. Just imagine for a minute that these majestic and grandiose structures were erected thousands of years ago. In that distant era, there were no modern technologies that could reliably protect buildings from the destructive effects of time and the forces of nature. The architects and builders of that time reached incredible heights of skill, using stone, wood, marble, and other natural materials. But even the most durable and long-lasting materials are eventually subject to destruction under the influence of weather, water, wind, and earthquakes. Natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, and fires played their tragic role in the destruction of many of the wonders of the world. For example, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, which stood for several hundred years and amazed the imagination with its splendor, was destroyed by a series of strong earthquakes that occurred in the region. These same destructive natural cataclysms erased from the face of the earth the majestic Colossus of Rhodes, which stood guard over the city and admired everyone with its grandeur. Earthquakes, unfortunately, spare even the most durable and carefully constructed structures, breaking them under the weight of their own weight and turning them into ruins. Human activity, unfortunately, also played its sad role in the loss of many of the wonders of the world. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, proudly towering over the Mediterranean Sea and serving as a reliable guide for sailors, was partially destroyed by earthquakes, but was finally dismantled by people who used its stones as building material for the construction of new buildings. A similar sad fate befell other wonders of the world. Something was burned in wars, something was plundered and reused, and something was simply forgotten and fell into disrepair. But perhaps the most dramatic and irreparable loss for humanity was the destruction of the famous Library of Alexandria. Although it does not directly belong to the seven wonders of the world, it symbolizes the same pain of loss and irreparable loss as the destruction of the Colossus of Rhodes or the burning of the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, committed by the mad Herostratus in the vain hope of entering history. The very cultures that built these magnificent wonders eventually disappeared or lost their former influence, giving way to new civilizations. The Egyptian pyramids have endured to this day because they were incredibly massive, robust, and built with technologies that, for their time, were cutting edge, ensuring their longevity. The other wonders of the ancient world, more elegant, intricate, and vulnerable, proved less resilient to the ravages of time and the forces of nature. They weren't built for eternity, but to capture the imagination of contemporaries and enchant them with their beauty. Yet, even in their ruined state, crumbled into fragments, they've left an indelible mark on human history and culture, continuing to inspire people to new accomplishments. We still remember them as vibrant symbols of human ambition, ingenuity, boundless imagination, and an unyielding pursuit of the beautiful and the perfect. The fate of the seven wonders of the world reminds us that even the most magnificent achievements of humankind are transient and subject to decay. But the memory of them can live on forever if it is carefully preserved and passed down from generation to generation. Reconstructing and creating modern counterparts to the seven wonders of the world is a fascinating endeavor, not only to honor the memory of these ancient masterpieces and preserve them in the minds of posterity, but also to draw inspiration from their grandeur and beauty to create something new and innovative. Although the originals of these wonders, with the exception of the majestic pyramids of Giza, are, alas, lost to us forever, their legendary fame and magnificence have become an inexhaustible source of inspiration for talented architects, artists, engineers, and designers across the globe. Let's delve deeper into how humanity today is attempting to revive the memory of the seven wonders and create their modern equivalents. Some of the wonders have seen literal attempts at reconstruction, employing modern technologies and scientific understanding. For example, in Turkey, archaeologists, historians, and architects are conducting extensive research and restoration work at the site where the renowned Temple of Artemis at Ephesus once stood. Currently, the temple exists only as scattered columns and picturesque ruins, but its partial reconstruction is not only a complex technical undertaking, but also a significant cultural project aimed at restoring its former glory and attracting tourists from around the world. Recreating the temple entirely and in its original form may never be possible, but modern computer technologies make it possible to create detailed and realistic three-dimensional models of the temple that convey its grace, beauty, and magnificence. The Colossus of Rhodes is another striking example of an attempt to revive an ancient wonder of the world and restore its former glory. Throughout history, various projects have been proposed to build a new colossal statue that would symbolize unity, peace, and prosperity. Modern engineers have proposed a more earthquake-resistant and environmentally friendly design that could successfully withstand the earthquakes that damaged and destroyed the original. Although this ambitious project has not yet been realized, the idea remains alive, popular, and inspiring to many. The Lighthouse of Alexandria also finds its modern counterparts in various countries around the world. Some historians and architects dream of restoring it to its full scale and original appearance, so that it once again becomes a vivid symbol of maritime navigation, engineering excellence, and the greatness of the human mind. In Egypt, an interesting idea was even actively discussed and promoted to create a modern lighthouse, based on the original design but using the latest technologies and modern materials, which would make it more durable and resistant to various natural influences. In addition to the direct restoration of the ancient wonders of the world, we can observe the creation of new modern wonders that pay tribute to and admire the ancient masterpieces. For example, the thriving city of Dubai, with its incredible architectural ambitions, innovative projects, and love of luxury, is somewhat reminiscent of ancient civilizations that strive to create the impossible and surpass all their rivals in art and construction. The Burj Khalifa, a majestic tower soaring into the sky, like a modern colossus, towers over the city, demonstrating the power of modern technology, ambition, and unlimited human potential. The harmony of nature and art, inspired by the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, finds its embodiment in modern projects such as vertical gardens in Singapore or the famous rooftop garden on one of the buildings in Milan. These contemporary gardens vividly illustrate how ancient dreams of creating paradise on earth and the harmonious coexistence of humans and nature are mirrored in our modern era, inspiring us to create new and amazing masterpieces. The fate of the seven wonders of the world reminds us that human inspiration, the pursuit of beauty, and the thirst for knowledge are eternal and know no bounds. We cannot bring back the past or fully restore the lost wonders, but we can recreate their elusive spirit in contemporary works of art and architecture. Each successful reconstruction of an ancient structure or the creation of a new ambitious project is not only a tribute to the great masters of the past, but also an inspiring reminder that human dreams, like history itself, continue and do not stand still, opening up new horizons and possibilities before us.